Mr. Pintard, the Right Honorable Michael C. Pintard. A Mingo welcome to the stage.
I'm not going to necessarily try the chant. I like my U in front of my B, M-I-N in front of my G, O-E. I love my Mingo's pride. It's good to be back here on campus. This stage is the first stage I was in a full-length production. It was called Struggle for Identity. I used to be a member of the Student Christian Movement, and like some of you, I backslidden 1, 2, maybe about 300 times. But on this stage, I had my orientation to the creative arts. And as a result of that experience, years later, I had the opportunity to collaborate with some of the most incredible Bahamian writers ever in producing theatrical productions that travel not just in the Bahamas, but throughout the Caribbean and, of course, in Florida. So UB, which was then COB, was one of those institutions that no matter where you ended up later, I went to Tuskegee, I went to McGill, you could not forget the impact of this institution in framing your worldview, how you saw yourself and ultimately the rest of the world. So I just wanted to begin by telling you just a couple of things about myself. I know you're far more interested in yourself, but let me just, humor me for a moment. So I came from an incredible high school. No, it's not SAC. I went to A.F. Adley Senior High School, right? So before that, I went to S.C. McPherson, and before that, I went to, the school don't exist no more, William Phipps Primary School. So the valley is on that site. I'm a Saxon. I'm not gonna claim that we were robbed. One family is off the chain, and so, but let me say this. I came to COB. I entered college prep. I didn't have all my GCs. Y'all call them BGCSE now. Now, I want you all to know that I took the mock exam. You all still did mock exam in high schools? I was awesome in the mock exam. I mashed up every one of those exams, but I failed the GCE. I personally believe they switched the curriculum with the exam. That had nothing to do with me and my abilities. So in any event, I ended up in college prep. And you spend 1 year in college prep, you get the necessary requirements, and then you get into the first year of university. So in a sense, I came here with a bit of a self-esteem issue. I was from a single-parent home. I have an incredible mother who, again, like you, a praying mother, keeps you standing. And so I came to COB with a bit of a chip on my shoulder because I was in classes when I finally made it to college level with students who had gotten 8 GCEs, in many cases with A's. I was catching the bus or walking to COB, and some of these kids were pulling up in cars, like some of y'all. And so they were pulling up in cars. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I was trying to figure out if we had a car for our family, how does this student have a car for themselves? It was a problem. So I was in work study, I worked in the library, I worked various places, and then of course one of my favorite jobs, I used to work in McDonald's. It was, any of you all work in McDonald's now or plan to work in McDonald's? Okay, stay tuned, some of you will. So I was able to raise some serious change for university. I also worked as a security officer at Atlantis. It was then Britannia Beach. And so oftentimes I would walk if I worked the graveyard shift, and only 2 of us used to be awake on the graveyard shift. Most people were sleeping. A few were in guest rooms as well, but that's a different story. So I'm just saying, but I worked security. And so I worked a variety of jobs when I was a student here. By the way, I studied agriculture. This was at a time where we used to have this little small agriculture plot not far from here. And we used to use chicken manure to create strong soil that can grow crops. If you don't know anything about agriculture, manure don't smell good. And so when you come out of the plot, it used to be a joke on campus. Some people used to sing Father Brown, but they used to change and put your name in it as an agriculture student. But that wasn't the highlight of my time. I was also active in student government, university spokesperson, a senator as well. And we used to engage in social and political issues as students. One of those engagements resulted in me being arrested on Bay Street while protesting against the then government. And that was an interesting experience. I'll tell you the serious part of it later, but we used to have lots of discussion, not under the tree. Under the tree was for other purposes, but we used to have real discussions about changing the country. And I remember before I got arrested, it was many of us. We were talking about our commitment to change, how we need to usher in a new dispensation in the Bahamas. And people were animated and vibrant. And we got ready to go downtown. And let's say there were 20 people originally. Let's say 20. By the time we got ready to go downtown, there's about 15. By the time we got downtown, it's about 9. By the time we got in the center of Bay Street to call for the resignation of the then Prime Minister, it was 3. By the time the police arrived and they were giving me a veggie, taking me to prison, it was me. But the truth is, our students were engaged. They actually believed that it was important to advocate for the transformation of the university, then college itself. They had a view that they ought to be a part of the decision-making body, that they should sit on the board. And every major committee at the university ought to include student representation. They believe that they should have an opinion about the Ministry of Education and how it should shape the curriculum and how it should interact with young Bahamians. They had a view on immigration. They had a view on economic development. And think about this. We were then a 2-year institution, meaning that they had a very short time, and as those who were against their children or young people engaged in activism would say, you only have 2 years, you're going to get your degree and then keep it moving. But in that 2 years, we had students who were so socially and politically conscious that they were prepared to make personal sacrifices for a universal solution in our country. You're a 4-year institution. And so as young people say, I won't dwell on this long. They say less, but I think you understand what we are up against. So my time here was incredible. I had an opportunity to interact with some amazing young men and women. Some of them are now not just leaders in the Bahamas, but they are running companies that have global significance. Some of them have emerged as leaders in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Some of them lead the most powerful faith-based organizations, leaders in civil society, leaders in the creative arts community. So the truth is, as I speak with you this morning, I'm suggesting to you that you are standing on the shoulders of some amazing Bahamians, some of who have emerged as regional and world changers, and whose worldview and sense of self-concept was formed where you are. So the truth is, as you look to your left or to your right, you have no idea who you're sitting next to. And they have no idea what God has birthed in you. And so for me, over time, it became irrelevant that I was from a single parent home. That we were so broke it was hard to pay attention. It became irrelevant that I was catching the bus or I was walking here. My wife cracks a joke with me. She said, you really have too many shoes. I regret that you had to go through the experience that you had only 2 shoes for a very long period of time. It became irrelevant over time that I was not moneyed, pedigreed, and not yet degreed. Because at the end of the day, all of us get to write our own story. Some of the kids I was going to school with at the time was born into privilege. And I don't envy them, because every parent should leave an inheritance for their children. The question was, what was I going to do? How would I have organized my life to make sure that my children's experience are in some ways fundamentally different than mine? And so as I look back with a sense of pride. I know that generally in tertiary institutions, 80% of those persons who enter and graduate are females, and 20% or less are males. The truth is, all of you are a minority in terms of persons who end up in university. But the truth is, those that graduate is an even smaller number. So you have to appreciate that you, in a sense, you are a rare breed in the general scheme of things. The rare breed gives you some responsibility. To whom much is given, much is required. Because the question is, you are presently receiving financial benefit from companies and from the government of the Bahamas. Ask yourself, for your friends who didn't make it to university, what is the equivalent dollar value in any program to benefit that category of Bahamians? So you have some benefits that are not accrued to other Bahamians. So you have a responsibility while here to distinguish yourself. Because the truth is, you are benefiting from the collective contribution of a whole lot of other people who either didn't have the wisdom or the interest or other factors determine why they are not here. And for the males that are here, even more so, you have a tremendous responsibility to stay the course. Let me quickly say that I'm speaking to you at a time where we are battling two things, two major categories of circumstances. Before you are some incredible challenges that this country faces on one hand, and on the other hand, there are some incredible opportunities waiting for you to seize. I won't belabor either categories this morning, but let me just quickly say that one of the challenges that we face is that you are born into a country and you now live in 2023 where no mother who was lying down to give birth to her child anticipated that she would be giving birth to a murderer or a victim of murder, a rapist or a victim of rape, a robber or a victim of robbery. But that is an ever-present reality in the Bahamas today. And whether you're in opposition or you're in government, you tell a different tale about what I believe, no matter where you are, is a crisis. The question is, are we equipped to handle it? I believe we have the necessary gray matter, resources, and if we would use it, networks to tackle this crisis. We're not. The question is for you, what role are you playing and how will you prepare yourself over the course of the next 4 years to meet that crisis? We have a crisis in immigration, unregulated movement of people across borders who can very much shift the very nature of the country. To what extent are you planning to be engaged in the discussion to, one, protect the sovereignty of the Bahamas, but two, to do it in a way that you do not promote xenophobia and hatred of other people who are also fighting for survival? How do we balance it? How do we organize immigration policies and enforcement so that others that wish a better way of life, we can determine how they come in, whether they come in blue collar or white collar, and they fit into the structure of our country and serve on the terms we define and leave at the point that we agree. So that we don't have to engage in pandering to the mob that calls for expelling people by any means necessary, even if it means damaging their lives. We're smarter than that. We're more sophisticated than that. We're far more creative than that. We have a crisis. We have a crisis in terms of ownership. In fact, tourism and financial services that are two dominant areas that generate wealth and employment in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and the people who substantially own these two pillars of our economy are so small in number that you are able to pack them up on a plane and fly them out of the Bahamas. That's how small the group is that control the economic levers of this country. And so while politicians are busy talking about employment, your generation is on a different run. You're talking about ownership. Ownership of land that's controlled in a prime minister's office, a decision made really by such a small group of people. It's a crisis. And so you have an opportunity to do what the generation before me, who've contributed a lot, and my generation who's contributed a lot, there are some things we have not accomplished. That as you sit in orientation, this is about you determining how you will prepare yourself to deal with these kinds of issues. So that when we go to the tables of the world, we're not going with a cap out looking merely for donations, but we are going there with much of what we need in here and in here as equal partners at global tables, making the case for us to be embraced and for our space to be reserved because we deserve it. Your generation have an incredible opportunity. This orientation is not just about you appreciating all the wonderful things this institution can offer, but it's also about determining what mindset, what heart set you are going to have that will guide you as you move through these corridors over the course of the next few years. And then, of course, on the other side of the equation, there are opportunities. Opportunities for you to be incredible entrepreneurs. If you're going to spend a ton of time on your computer, wouldn't it make more sense in between the one or two TikTok, in between listening to, I don't know who you listen to, Pop Smoke, Lil Baby, Dub Baby, the not so pretty, well, anyhow, forget the babies in its different forms. In between all that you listen to, I mean, I heard you said Burna Boy. That's one too. Somebody say Scarface. Oh, you don't know Scarface. Who's it that you all know? Sorry, I saw somebody in the back. He said, but Dior, that's Pop Smoke to it. Okay, I see. So the bottom line is, in between all that you do on your computer, you can become entrepreneurs creating multi-million, multi-billion enterprises, as opposed to looking up people looking to get your goods and services in the international market so people could appreciate that we are as brilliant as anyone else, anywhere else in the world. I live in Grand Bahama. And it's disheartening sometimes to walk into the bank and you look at long lines, and often those who work for the shipyard, or in some cases other major companies, they are there to repatriate money to their country of birth. So here are some folks who've traveled from halfway around the world to the country of your birth to realize not only their dreams, but dreams for their children and their grandchildren not yet born. And not far away in the couches in Royal Bank or Scotiabank are some of our relatives who are sitting down waiting on an opportunity to go to the loan officer to borrow money. In some cases, it's not just for their house. And for others, they're sitting in the couches trying to negotiate saving the home that's been in the family for a long period of time. The question is, which line should we be on? So as you go through orientation, I ask you to, yes, consider all the fun things. You have to enjoy the ride. You have to make this time come. The bottom line is, it's not always just about the destination. It is also about the journey. Because the truth is, some folks may not make it to the ultimate destination. But the question is, would you have had a proper quality of life on the drive? You know, let me put it this way. For some of the lecturers who are here, now most of them, they pocket gunky, they doing well, right? But for some, let's say some who are struggling, sometimes when you pay your mortgage the first of the month, people start panicking about how they're going to pay it next month. Now you have whole 30 days to enjoy your premises. Already you fretting about what's going to happen at the end of the month. And if you're renting, some people like that too. I'm suggesting that while you are at UB, enjoy yourself. We're not talking about drinking some Hennessy. We're not talking about getting stoned, smoking a blunt, drinking stitchy. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about seeing somebody that you like and then your eyes so big, everybody you like. Well, no, we're not talking about that. I ain't talking about that. I'm just saying, enjoy the journey. Build powerful network of friends. There are some folks who we are doing business with right now, who we are doing politics with, who we are doing life with, who we met when we were at COB. And so we decided that there was a quality of life we wanted for ourselves, but more importantly, there was a kind of country we wanted to build. And the discussions began right here, in the library, under the tree, in the foyer. So you have an opportunity to look around and decide, who will you build a tech company with? Who will you join with in forming a construction company that's engaged in climate smart construction, since we live in a hurricane alley? You look at the network to figure out who are the other persons who you'll form a faith-based organization with that will cater to the whole man and woman. You're sitting next to some folks who will create a new vision for the Bahamas, where we appreciate that men and women deserve same opportunities, right to pass on citizenship to children. That two people, despite their best efforts to be together, when they decide this one can't work or unless somebody getting buried, that they have a no-clause divorce, they can move on from each other. The bottom line is, the people who are sitting next to you are able to usher in some changes that we have not yet done as a country. And so you have a marvelous opportunity. So as I take my seat, just a couple of quick suggestions. Decide that you're going to work hard and smart. 4 years is a short time. And the outcome of your life in large measure will be determined by the types of habits you form. And so at UB, form some good habits. Like learning how to wake up early, pray up, show up, stay late if necessary, being able to delay gratification because you're going to have plenty of that later on. Most people who get the joys, the cookies now, many times are begging for cookies later. And so it's important for you to be able to delay gratification, to spend some time when some folks want to go and party, that you are able to buckle down. I went to Tuskegee as well, and one of the sayings we had is that while we are on the yard partying, those kids at Auburn, often of a different hue, are busy studying. But if we make the sacrifice, all the haters on the sideline who wondering why you're doing what you do are likely to be employed by you. And then their children and their children's children. The bottom line is, use this time to find out what you want to do. The career that you're going into should not be chosen by mommy, daddy, or any teacher, no matter how much you love them and admire them. Find your own passion. And then, of course, make your passion pay your bills and help some people in the process. Years ago, before I went into politics, the reality is I was a human resources development consultant and writer. I loved it so much, I would do it for free. You invite me to speak, I'm prepared to come for free. But God give me sense, and I used to charge. But my point is, you have to find the thing that you love to do. Because if you are not in the career that you love doing, you are likely to be in a holding pattern, and by extension, you are likely to hold those persons who rely on your goods or services in a holding pattern. The last thing I want is for a loved one of mine to require a procedure, a medical procedure, and to have a doctor who would really rather be a visual artist, who haven't been keeping up to date in terms of their vocation, operating on them. Find your passion and make your passion pay your bills. It's important to appreciate that you're here not just for academic education, but it's about socialization. It's about developing a community. It's about learning how to work with each other and to agree to disagree on some important matters. One of the biggest challenges we have in the country is a lack of continuity in government. One government comes in, all sensible programs get thrown out, and both sides have done it. This is the time for you to decide that you're going to create a new political dispensation, that you're going to learn to work with each other in COBUS, in the various clubs on campus. That sometimes you will disagree, but you have the ability to do it civilly, and you have the ability to look beyond your personal ambitions, beyond the ambitions of your tribe, and look at what is in the collective interest of the larger group. So being here is more than the academics, but you have to nail the academics as well. Many of you, when you participated in graduation, you remember all your family members were there and your friends, one or two haters as well. They came, and somebody's in the back, hey, Kale, that's my baby. You were encompassed by a great cloud of witnesses pulling for you. Even the student who was having challenge calculating their GPA, they had people who were cheering for them, 1.4, 1.6, but they were on that stage, plenty swag. More swag than the woos and the chews in She-Rock. Okay, the bottom line is, you are encompassed by a great cloud of witnesses, Bahamians home and abroad, who are pulling for you to succeed, because our country is in need of new leadership in almost every sphere. And so this morning, it is an honor to have had this opportunity to come to speak not to leaders of tomorrow, but leaders of today. Because you standing here saying anything remotely similar to what I'm saying to young people in your age bracket, you are likely to be infinitely more effective than I am today. We need you. So when they invite me, with a hope at the end of saying thank you I'm here for selfish reasons. I'm here because I love this country. And I know that we have a lot of work that is undone. And it's requiring young men and women like you, who have heart, who have courage. Think about it. Some of you are from neighborhoods where there are brothers who are in conflict, standing 15 feet away from each other, both of them busting shot, none running. Plenty courage, but completely misguided. Let's look at a different category. You have some national leaders, a whole island apart, called upon to make tough decisions and scared of their own shadow to make the decision. So what we need is young people with heart, who bold enough to figuratively take a shot at the goals that have eluded this country for decades. Bold enough and fearless enough not to run from the urgency of the moment now, to save our children, to create opportunities for persons who we shake our head because they are failing, without checking how we might intervene and ensure that they fail. No, that they succeed. You and I have a marvelous opportunity. The person sitting to your left and right, they could be a part of this marvelous opportunity for us to generate real Mingo pride. For you not to take a wait and see attitude on who next to you prepared to engage in the chat. You ready to bust it off right now. You ain't worrying with them. That you are prepared to walk into any classroom, in the cafeteria, on the field, and be a difference maker. That you're not prepared to be a part of the run-of-the-mill rumors and running up talks about nothingness, when we have a whole university to build, a whole community to build, a whole country to build. And so as I leave you, I ask you, listen, don't give up. I need you to press forward. When it appears that the money is not available for you to continue coming to UB, knock on every door. I used to write letters to friends, to relatives, to people I didn't know, but somebody tell me they had plenty cheddar, and I would ask them for a grant, a loan, or a scholarship. It didn't make a difference. I was determined to finish school and to graduate. Press forward. Even when people in your family doubt that you can make it, even when your boo or snooks don't share your vision, and since you're married to them, you could always trade them in and upgrade. The bottom line is you have to press on. Even when you're going through challenges, physical or mental or emotional, and you want to give up, I'm asking you to look at the destination that you have in mind and decide you are prepared to take this journey. I'm asking you to press on. Even when many of your friends or cousins have gone off to school and have stayed, when the truth is we need some warriors who could come home and build this country, I'm asking you to press. And even when you run into one or two lecturers who may be having a bad day, okay, a week, or a bad month, okay, they had a bad year, I'm asking you to press on. And if you do, we'll build a country that is the absolute envy of the world. God bless you, and I love you.
I'll give it up one more time for Mr. Pintard.